Okay, so what we'll do is if you go to my homepage on Zurich, right? So this is basically the IT classes I'm teaching. Click on the IT 300 link. And then on the IT 300 link, if you click on the where it says PHP examples, so the screen should turn aqua. If you click on the thing that says example 11, birthday tally, so just type in your first name. I think everyone in this class has a unique, I think this is all unique names. So you could just type in your first name, pick the month that you were born, and the day you were born, and then hit submit. And try to hit submit just once. Anyway, so what I went over last class was the birthday tally code. It is asking you, the page you're looking at right now is asking you for your name, month, and day. And it's writing this to, it's writing the results to a file called example11results.txt. So I'm just writing results to a text file. And then this is the new piece of code I just added. This will basically, this is going to take all the birthdays and sort them. So it'll be easy for us to figure out if anyone has the same birthday. So all I did here in this code, this is the new piece of code added since last time. I take the file with all your answers in it, and I basically go through all the answers and I read your name, the month and day you were born, and I copy those into an array called name, month, and day. Then I call this PHP function. Really simple. It's one line. It says array multi-sort. So a multi-sort is when you have a multiple dimensional array. So I'm saying sort it where the month is the outermost sorted thing, then the day, and then the name. So actually it's gonna consider what's the first month in alphabetical order? April?
Yep.
Right? Any other A's? Yeah, so it'd be April. So actually, it's not going to sort it January, February, March. We could have put in a map that says January equals 1, February equals 2, and do it in order like that. But this is basically going to sort by month. So April would be first.
February would be second.
February would be second.
August.
Yes.
Oh, August, right.
Oh, sorry.
August would come after April, right. So it'll go like April, August. So, and then within those, it'll be sorted by days. So hopefully, if anyone's birthday lines up, they'll be right next to each other. Okay, so has everyone taken the survey? So it's 8, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I think we're at a lot less than 50% chance there'll be a match. But if I go to the page that displays the results, it will be example 11. Step 3. So step 1 is the page you're bringing up. Step 2 is when you submit your results. And then step 3 would be the tally of the results. Let's see.
No match.
Nobody, right? No matches.
No matches.
Okay, maybe if we had all 30 people in the class, maybe next class I'll ask the others to just add their results to it. But so it looks like there's no matches here. Nobody even close, right? No, December 4th and December
4th, 6th.
Okay, so maybe when the other students in the class come, then has everybody answered? Yeah, everybody answered. Okay, so I'll ask the other students to answer. After you get past 23 should be a 50% chance, then above 23 it starts getting closer and closer to 100%, so you should have a hit, but anyway, we don't. But this is a way of just getting a whole bunch of people to submit a bunch, some information, kind of like a social network, and then just have something go through that information and look for matches if you wanted to. Okay, so then the other example we wanted to do tonight was this. And I have the instructions on this homepage for our class. if you click on Project 1, I'm going to kind of go through this quick, and then if you want, we could go through this slower after. But we want to create a blog. So what is a blog? A blog is really a combination of two things we went over last class. We went over an example in PHP how you could take text from somebody and save it to a file. And then we went over another example where you can read from a file and display it on the web page. So if you really combine those two, that's a blog. Somebody types a comment, hits save, it gets saved somewhere. And then the very same page goes and reads it and displays it. So if you combine, so really all we're doing is combining two things we went over last class. So I have the instructions here, and I'll just go through this. And you could, yeah, just like watch on the board. So I'll bring up another page. Here's what we want to do. We want to, under your public HTML folder, create a folder for this class called IT 300. So you want to, under public HTML, create a folder called IT 300. Okay, I already happen to have one. And maybe just so everyone's consistent, maybe make it capital I, capital T. So name the folder IT 300 for this class. So I don't think anyone had a folder already under public HTML. So like I say, just call it under public HTML, create a folder called IT 300. Then in that folder, we're going to create a folder called blog. So under here, create a folder called blog. So all our projects will make a separate folder for you. You can make blog in small letters. Blog. Then click on blog. Okay, so your blog folder's empty. So now we got to remember how to use Dreamweaver. Because here's what we want to do. We want to make a one-page web page that asks somebody to give a comment and give their email address and hit a button. Okay? So we'll open up Dreamweaver. And like I say, our goal is to so what we're doing tonight is something you could add to a separate web page if you wanted to. But so you open up Dreamweaver. Now we've always in your IT 250 class, you've made files called index.html. Okay, and the way you did that was, this is still coming up. You said new, and you probably went blank page, HTML is the page type, and then you picked one of these. Does this ring a bell? Is it Dreamweaver? Okay, so normally you would pick a blank page, HTML, and then one of these, whichever layout you like. What we now want to do, since we're talking about PHP, is we want to click PHP. So that's the new thing for today. We're creating a blank PHP page. And then you can pick any one of these that suits you. I'll pick this one. All we're really trying to do is just have a place to put our blog in. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out how to get information from the person. So we're creating a web page to do that. And so we can delete out these comments. And you could put whatever you want here, my blog, or blog about whatever topic you want to blog on. My blog, hit it. Okay, so we want to create a form, right? Because a form is where people come to our website and they want to we want to ask questions to them. So wait, before we do this, let's save this with the right name in the right folder. So let's first do a save as, and put it in your blog folder.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to jump around until you
IT300.
find your IT300 folder, then go into your blog folder and call this index.php. So in the past, you've probably named these index.html, and the thing we're doing today that's slightly different is we're calling it PHP. So that way it can use PHP functions. A PHP file, just a reminder, is exactly like an HTML file with one additional tag, the PHP tag. And in that tag, we can put in a program. So we save this. Now we have it saved in the right spot. Okay. So we want to have a form here that basically asks the person, what is your email address and what is your comment? And then we'll give a button. So if you remember how to create a form, you would go to Insert. Under Insert, you select Form. And the top thing is a form, and then everything below it is stuff that you put inside a form. So hopefully this is just a refresher of IT 250. So when you create a form, it basically gives you a box. So it's basically saying, in this red box is where we are going to ask questions. So then inside the red box, as long as your cursor is in the red box, you can hit enter and make the form bigger. We put the cursor inside the red box, and now we want to insert a place where we go back to form, and we're going to, let's see, what do the instructions say? Create a form.
Text field. Insert it.
We want to add a text field called with an ID of email. So we want to say, so our cursor is inside our form. Just a reminder, this red dotted box is our form. So just in case you need a little refresher, if you went to, say, Facebook, so everyone knows this page, right here is a form. This right here is a form. Anything where you can type information into the web page and then hit a button and then that causes something to happen, that's a form. So this section of this web page right here is a form. This section of the web page is also a form. These are two different forms. You could put multiple forms on the same web page, but we're just going to have one for today. So inside this section of our page is a form. So we're going to ask the person what is their email address. So we're going to now, with the cursor inside the form, going to say Insert, and then under Forms, there are things you can add to forms. So we're going to add the first one, a text field. Okay? Now,
Email ID should be.
We want the ID to be email in small letters, and the label can be whatever you want it to be. So the ID is going to be email. So you want to spell this in small letters, E-M-A-I-L, because the code we're going to copy in expects it to have that name. The label is going to be whatever you want the person to see on the web page. So you could say, just to be different, you don't have to do this. You could say email, but I'm going to say enter. Enter. And, right, so this identifier is the thing that it's going to be known as within our program. So what's going to happen is the person's going to type in their email address, type in a comment, and hit a button. And we need to save their email somewhere. So we want to know what the name of that field is. And this is just what appears on the screen for them to see. These don't have to match, but a lot of times they do match. So now I'm going to hit OK. And I now have a field that says, it says enter email, and then whatever they put in here, if they hit the button, it's going to be known to our website as email, whatever their email is. And now, after we've added that, we're going to say insert again. We want them to be able to create a comment. So we'll say insert form. And now a bigger area where they can type for a while is called the text area. So we open up a text area, and our instructions say we would like to call it comment. The ID has to be comment, and the label can be whatever you want. So comment in small letters is the ID, and then the label could say enter your comment or opinion or whatever. And then we hit OK again. So again, this is what the comment is going to be known binding to our program, and this is what the person sees. Okay, so then we hit OK, and this looks a little ugly. Maybe what we can do is hit an enter, just to get rid of this idea that the comment here says enter your comment, and then the box is like way over here. You can just put the cursor here and hit enter. Okay, so we won't worry about cosmetic changes right now. You can do that stuff later, changing colors and making the boxes bigger and stuff like that. Okay, so now what we've created is a form where the person can type in their email address, and then they could type in some comment, and this is a window that scrolls, so the comment can go on if they want. And now we just need a button for them to hit to say I'm done. So we will add a button. And let's make sure the instructions are all there.
Button, ID submit.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to add a button and set the ID to submit and the label to blank. Okay, so we're going to say insert, form, button.
Submit.
So it's a submit type button, S-U-B-M-I-T. The thing is this, the word submit is going to appear on the button. You could have a label on the side of the button, but that usually looks strange. So just what I mean by that is like this. The reason why we're leaving it blank is, for example, on Facebook, this button says log in on it. We could have put a comment next to it, like hit this button to log in, but people usually understand what the button is called, so they don't need an extra explanation for it, right? It usually says it on the button. So we'll leave the label blank. Probably seems a little strange that the label's blank, but we'll leave it blank. And now we have a submit button. Okay, so now we've created a form. So really what we've done so far is we've created a web page. We called it index, so that way if anybody ever goes straight to our folder, this will pop up. It asks people for their email address, and it saves it in a variable which could be used by programs called email. It saves their whole comment in a variable called comment. And then we added a button, and by adding a button, we could then take an action. So if somebody hits this button, then something happens with these answers. So does everyone have the form with the 2 questions and the button? Okay. Just to be safe, we can hit save. Actually, if you want to bring up a web browser, you can see if it looks okay. Let's see, where am I putting this? I'm putting this in Zora. Under IT300, I created a folder called blog. So this is what I just created. I'm just checking that it looks normal. So this is my blog. They would enter their email address, they put in a comment, and hit enter, hit this button. So right now, nothing happens when the button gets hit, right? We want to make something happen. So we go back to the web page we're creating, and here's where we have to be a little careful. We're going to do a little surgery here. So let's see, 3 words. Okay. Okay, so we're going to make the action. Maybe I'll draw this out on the blackboard after what's happening. When you hit a submit button on a form, an event occurs. Whatever you program the button to do, what we would like this button to do, if somebody hits this button, we would like to record the two pieces of information somewhere in a file. And we'd actually like to take that file and bring it back to this page so it can print out underneath it. I'd like to do that all like in one step. So when this button is hit, we would like to make it run a program. So we'll do that by clicking on the frame of the form. By clicking on the frame of the form, you can add attributes about the form. By being inside the form, I can add stuff inside the form. But if I click on the frame of a form, then I could do things about the form like change its color, but also I could say what program will run when the button is hit. So I click on this frame, and you see down here where it says action, action is now blank, right? But when you click on the frame of a form, you can fill in attributes about the form, and when this form is activated, the action right now is to do nothing. We want to put in an action. So we're going to, I have to copy this letter for letter correctly because it's going to call a program. So we're going to have a program with the same name. So we're going to say the action is writeblog.php, and the B from blog will be capitalized. So it'll look just like this. W-R-I-T-E, capital B, so it's all one word, .php. So this means what we're doing so far is, does that well, not yet does it make sense, but does everyone know to type into this action thing that says writeblog.php, and the B of blog will be capitalized. Okay, so what this means, once we hit save, if you look in the code on the HTML side, what it did was inside the form, here's the beginning of the form, and the end of the form is a little further down. It's basically saying that the action will be writeblog.php. That program will be called. That's what we're doing. So what we've done so far is we've created a form that asks two questions. The person can type in their email address and a comment and then hit this button. Now this button will call a program called writeblog.php, which currently doesn't exist. So if I brought up the page right now, it will probably have all kinds of problems. Let's see. If I go to here, reload this page, if I put, now that I saved it, if I put my mouse over this button, it tells me that what it will do, it's going to call a program called writeblog.php. And right now that program doesn't exist. So I'm going to have some kind of problem. Okay, yeah, it went to a web page that doesn't exist. Okay, but at least it's doing something. It's trying to go to a web page called writeblog.php, which happens to not be there right now. Okay, so it's trying to go to a page called writeblog.php. Now let's make that file be there. So let's go back to we're almost done with creating our blog. Just as the form ends on the HTML side in Dreamweaver, cut and paste the following code. Well, all right, let's do the last step first, because that's really where we're at right now. So if you go to your IT300 folder, and then in there, there's a thing called blog. We want to create a file called, the name you just called it, writeblog.php. Now here's the annoying thing about the new Windows. It won't let us create a file of that type. So why don't we do this? we want to create a file of type PHP script. We would like the name of the file to be writeblog with a capital B .php. But we can't create one .php, so let's copy this one. This is just an annoying step that you have to do. We'll say copy, copy, and paste. Now we've made a file called index-copy, but its type is PHP. And let's rename this one to the name we want. The name we want is writeblog. So do you understand what I was trying to do? I wanted to make a file called writeblog, and I wanted its type to be a PHP script. And we can't just sit down and make a PHP file because it won't let us. We have to know the extension in advance, and it doesn't. Right now, it's not supporting creating PHP files.
It should be capital B, right?
Yeah, the B should be capital. Actually, you know, the truth of the matter is, whatever you called it in your action has to match this name exactly. That's really the only thing important. So, whatever you put in your action, it's going to now call this page. So when you hit action on your form, when you hit the submit button on your form, whatever you put in as the action, if you typed in writeblog.php, this program will run when that button is hit. So as long as the names match, whatever you said the action was and whatever you name this file, as long as they match, this will run. Now this thing, let's delete this stuff out. Let's edit this now. And delete all this stuff out. And then go back to my web page, and you'll have the code for, if you go back to, if you click on the writeblog, this one. So we're really doing the last step now, and then we're going to do the second to last step. If you click on this, you'll see the code that you want to be in that program. So while you're doing that, what I want to do is cut and paste this whole thing into the writeblog folder and save it. But let me just explain, while you're doing that, I'll explain what it's doing. It's going to open up a file called blog.txt, which will be in your blog folder. And it's going to take whatever the person gave as their email address, it's going to write that to a variable called email. It's going to take whatever that comment is and write it to their comment. And then I'm actually going to replace, every time they hit a new line, I'm going to take that away. So it's going to look like one big comment. Yeah?
Wait, so we paste that where?
So you want to take, can you display this code?
Yeah.
Okay. Cut and paste the whole thing.
Yeah.
And save it into the file called writeblog.php.
Wait, where?
In your, so the,
Because isn't it just a copy of our index?
well, no. After you copy the index, open it up and
Okay.
delete everything out of it.
The whole code?
The whole thing. Yeah, delete away the whole index thing. Delete, so it's now a blank file.
Yeah.
And now paste that code that you can see into it.
Okay.
Okay, so while you guys are doing that, I'm just saying what it does. It assumes there's a file called blog.txt in your blog folder, which is right now not there. It's then going to take the email address and the comment. It's going to remove all the new lines. Don't worry about that so much. And then it's just going to write it to that file. And then what it's going to do is, this is a PHP thing. When you say header and go to a web page, it's going to come back to your blog page. So what happens is it takes your answers, saves them to a file, and then goes back to your page. Okay? And that's very similar to something we did last class, where we were taking answers from form and writing them to a file. It's just that last class we would write them to a file, and then we said something like, thank you for your answers, or something like that. Now what we're doing that's different is we're writing their answers to a file, and then we're going right back to the page that just gave us the answers, like as if we want another comment from them. Okay, so That's the only slight change from last class. And now the last thing we want to do, which is our second to last one, is, here's where we're going to do a little surgery. So click on this last piece of code, and while you guys are finding this piece of code, I'll just describe what it's doing. This piece of code is building a table. So this is pure HTML. Table, table row, table data, email, and comment. Actually, I should have changed those to table headers. They look a little bit more bold. And then that's the end of the table row. Now in PHP, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the file called blog.txt, and I'm going to read all the comments. And then whatever comments I see, I'm going to write them out to the page. So this code needs to be put right into your blog. This shouldn't be a separate file. This should be put directly into your blog. So here's what we got to do. If you can get to the point where you can copy this code, copy the code in its entirety. So we want to do a copy. Then go to Dreamweaver and go right to your blog. And what we want to do, this is the last step, and then our blog should work. What we want to do is, on the HTML side of Dreamweaver, we want to go to the very end of the form. And where's the form?
It's over there. Yeah.
Here's the end of the form. You see this thing? The /form, that's where your form ends. Right after the form, we're going to make some space. Actually, you can make a bunch of space. If you remember that HTML doesn't take into account space. You can make all the space you want, you won't see it on your web page. So what I'm doing is right after the form, I'm making some room because I'm going to add something. The reason I can't add it on this side is because it's PHP code. The only thing you see on this side is stuff you can see with your eyes. PHP code doesn't show up with your eyes. So we want to cut and paste this last PHP code snippet. Where is it? Nope. This one. This last piece of code, you want to cut and paste this whole thing, this whole table, and cut it right in, paste it right in after the form ends. So we'll do copy, and then I'm going to paste it right here. Paste. Okay. So just one thing, and then I'll answer some questions. It should have told me there's a PHP section in my code.
It's given you the table.
So, okay, does anyone have a question? Yeah?
I don't know what happened at all. Like, I have this and I'm like, and somehow like, it looked like that.
Did you still have the gray at the top of the bottom?
Yeah. I think like, because I had this and then it's not there.
Oh, okay. All right, we can take a look at it after. So this is like, so what we're going through here is, it's something that once you get comfortable doing this, you could do it real quick. So doing it over would be really quick. You'd probably get it done in like 2 minutes. So, okay, so now what we have, here's what's going on in our web page. And I hope I did all my cut and paste right so it works. So here's what's going to happen. The web page looks like this. Here's what we've done. I know it sounds a little convoluted, but here's what we're doing. We have our web page, so it's in our folder, and we called it index.php. A PHP page is just like an HTML page with one additional tag, the block that says PHP. Other than that, it's an HTML page, which you've seen 1,000 times before. We put in a form, and we ask people for their email and their comment. And then we put a button so they can hit the submit button. Okay. Now, they hit that button, this web page reads, okay, when they hit this button, these two answers get sent over to the server, and they get recorded in a file called blog.txt. So it's going to have their email address and their comment. And then another person can come in and put their email in and their comment. And it can fill up with comments. So that's what would be happening. Now, when they hit this button, we programmed the button. We made a file on the server called .php. And what did this file do? It took the two answers they gave us and it wrote it to the bottom of this file. It just keeps adding comments to the bottom of this file. So when we hit this button, we programmed it to run this program which takes their comment and puts it in this file. And then the very last thing this thing did was to make us go back to this page. Okay, so that alone would just mean every comment that gets written here gets saved here, but nobody ever sees anybody's comments. Now we'd like them to be able to see their comment. So we added more code here that says every time this page gets loaded, we want to read from this file. This page will go and read from this file and print out the email address and the comment. And if there's 10 comments, it'll print out 10 email addresses and 10 comments. So that's what we did. So what we basically did was this. We said, this page, every time this page comes up, I want to print the form out plus the entire contents of this file. I want to print that below every time this page comes up. Now if somebody comes and puts in a new comment, they type in their new comment and they hit this button. This program will write the comment to here and then this program will say reload this page. This page will reload and it'll come out and read this first and then print that at the bottom. So that should be what's happening. So assuming I did all the cut and paste right, hopefully this thing works. So we hit save, and now, so hopefully this whole thing works. So here's my page right now. I have the blog. This field and this field is part of my form. This is the end of my form, and now I have a table at the bottom with an email and a comment, but nobody's put in any comments yet. So does anyone have a comment I should add? Well, you know what?
But don't we have to make the text document?
No, oh, that's a good question. It will be made for you. That's a very good question. Because what she just asked was, where is that? Let me open.
On mine, it like shows up some of the code.
Yeah, mine does.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
it
and
says
I like redid it and it still keeps coming up.
Okay. Well, okay, so the question that, I'm sorry, what's your name? You asked the question?
Jacqueline?
Jacqueline. The question Jacqueline asked was, do we have to create the file blog.txt first? Otherwise, we might start getting errors. But the code we copied in the code we copied in, when it goes to open the file, the code that writes comments to the bottom, if the file doesn't exist, it will create it. So the very first comment, it should create it. And then after that, it just keeps writing to the bottom. And this code that displays the content should say if the file is, this code says if the file exists, let's print out what's here. And if the file doesn't exist, it ignores it. So that's why we're seeing nothing right now, is because the file doesn't exist. So, let's see, if we type in a comment, so, let's see. What happened in my,
Let's
so you guys got a,
I got an error page. Yeah, me too.
oh, wait a minute. Somehow I saved my, I'm gonna delete this. Let's start over. Okay. So I'm gonna do the same step again, the copy and the paste, and then I'm gonna rename it.
right block.
Right blog. And then I'm gonna edit it. Delete all this stuff out, and then I go to the directions, and I copy in right block.
Copy. No. Now we can go.
So you should be able to. What's going on? What is this?
Russ, why didn't you know about not having a blog on PHP?
What's that?
Why didn't you know about not having a blog on PHP?
No blog.php? There's no file blog.php.
In the code there is for.
Yeah, in the code, it says blog.php. Shouldn't it be
In right blog, that in the code for right blog.
Yeah.
At the bottom it says header location blog.php.
Oh, okay, that's a good point. Sorry. Change that to index.php.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's probably what's wrong with mine too. Okay. So,
Rename.
to edit this. Okay, so that would be, yeah, sorry about that, change this to index. So did everyone get the error was no page found?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Save.
I need to save.
It's in the top.
Okay, so,
Yes.
okay, index.php is there, okay. So now,
It has not been changed.
okay, so now it's working. Sorry about that. So, so basically the comment is starting to show up in this table now.
What?
don't get that.
No?
I get $sign field 0, $sign field 1.
On the web page?
Like,
Okay, yeah, let me go just